Hello, my name is Taylor Flipsy, and this is Reading Vocabulary and Comprehension. Please bear with me, I've been extremely sick, and I don't have much of a voice right now, so we're just going with it. There are 3 levels of vocabulary learning. There are Tier 1 words. These are the most basic words that occur in everyday life. They're on TV, they're in conversations, they're in children's books, they're just pop up day-to-day conversation. They're just everywhere. They're basic words, they don't have multiple meaning, they don't require direct instruction. These words can include sight words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, and early reading words. And there are around 8,000 of these words in the English language. And the examples of this can be book, girl, run, dog, farm. Just easy words like that. They just come up all the time and they don't have multiple meanings. A sentence I see often when I am in the elementary school subbing is the big brown dog jumped over the girl or something along those lines. And all of those are Tier 1 words. The next is Tier 2 words. These are high frequency words in adult language, and they come up in conversations, literature, and that type of thing, so they strongly influence speaking and reading. Tier 2 words are important for reading comprehension. They often contain multiple meanings, so the words can mean different things depending on the context of the sentence. They increase descriptive vocabulary, so instead of a student saying, the view was nice, they could say the view was spectacular, and that gives them a better description. They are important for direct instruction because Tier 2 words are good indicators of a student's progress through school and how they're understanding things and how their reading comprehension is growing. There are also about 7,000 word families in the English language for Tier 2 words. Some examples of these can be like what I used earlier, spectacular, or masterpiece, fortunate, industrious, measure, or coincidence. Just bigger words that come up in adult conversations and that type of thing. The next is Tier 3 words. These are found in specific knowledge situations, so they don't come up quite a lot unless you are in a specific subject, like subjects in school, like math, science, English, that type of thing, or hobbies, geographic regions, technology, weather, or occupational stuff with work. There are terms that are going to come up in like weather, like that are not going to come up in English or math. You're not going to talk about barometric pressure as an English term. That you learn these words when a specific need arises. You don't generally talk about them regularly, like the word amino acid. You would learn that during chemistry. You're not going to talk about amino acid when you're discussing what your plans are for the weekend or about the children's book you just read about farm animals. It's not going to come up in that because it is specific to chemistry. Examples would be economics, isotope, asphalt, or Revolutionary War. They're specific things that only mean specific things. The next thing is word maps. Word maps are used to help students understand new words. What are 3 important questions that word maps address? What it is. This asks for a basic definition, and people need to keep in mind that we are defining it for a young elementary student. We are not giving a college level explanation. The explanation could be simple and basic and not contain everything it should, but the most important part is explaining it at a level elementary students are going to understand. What it is, this is descriptions, attributes, properties, what it looks like, what it feels like, what it does, just things like that, what it's about. The next is, what are some examples? This is concrete instances or situations that demonstrate the word's usage. So, say you're talking about dogs. It would be, the examples would be beagles or collies or labs or that types of thing. For my sample word map, I use the word forest. And for the definition, we go with the easiest definition elementary school kids are going to understand, which is a large area of land covered with trees and other plants, and there is home to many animals. What it's like. Forests have a lot of trees and plants. They are a large habitat for animals. And the main definition of a forest that's important to learn is a large area of land where trees are the most dominant form of life. Yes, they have other plants and animals, but trees are the largest part of a forest. And what are some examples? There are so many different examples of forests, but I picked temperate forests, which are rainforests, but with average temperatures. So it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right in the middle. And then boreal forests. These are cold climate forests. So these aren't going to have your normal warm tropical trees because they have snow on the ground. They're going to have pine trees and evergreens and more trees adapted to live in the cold. And then you have tropical forests, which are rainforests with huge amounts of moisture. So it rains all the time and high temperature. So it's always hot and it's always raining. Using the Freyer model to teach words. The Freyer model is when you have the word that you're trying to explain in the middle of the paper, and then you have 4 text boxes. One is a definition, one is characteristics, one is examples, and one is non-examples. So for the word reptile, you go with your basic, understandable by elementary kids definition. You have a cold-blooded animal with scales or plates on its skin, a backbone, and lungs. Is it your college level biology definition? No. But it is a definition that kids are going to understand that gets the point across. Their characteristics are dry skin covered in scales or bony plates. They're cold-blooded, they lay eggs, and they breathe air with their lungs. And when you go to examples, you need to be sure to specify that all examples have to have all the characteristics you listed. So some examples that have all the characteristics are snakes, lizards, turtles, and alligators, because they all have dry skin, they all are cold-blooded, they lay eggs, and they breathe air with their lungs, even though they do live in the water sometimes. And then non-examples. Some of these might contain 1 or 2 specific characteristics, like frogs and toads and salamanders could lay eggs, but they don't contain all of these things. And then fish don't have lungs, so they would be a non-example. So non-examples are frogs, toads, salamanders, fish, and mammals. The question-answer relationship, or the QAR. What is the QAR? It is a strategy that teaches students how to how to ask key questions about their reading and how to find the answers for their questions using the text. Whether it's finding the answers word for word in their text, making an inference about what they have read, or relating back to their own experience. There are several types of questions, some of them being right there questions, which could be questions that are word for word in the text. Like if it says, the big red dog was hungry, and then it says, what color was the dog? The dog was red. And then there are think and search questions that the answer is in the text, but it's not all together. One part of it might be in paragraph 1, and the other part of the question might be paragraph 3. So you have to read it and put the 2 together. And then there are, on my own questions where students have to recognize the question and understand the question and think about it before they can develop an answer. Because if they don't understand the question or don't get what the question's asking, they're not going to be able to accurately come up with an answer. Why should we use the question-answer relationships? It helps students find answers to their questions using the text they are reading and relate back to it. So by being able to do that, it improves their reading comprehension. And it teaches them to be able to ask questions about their reading, so it helps them to understand better. And it inspires students to think creatively, and it allows them to work with other students while challenging them to use higher level thinking skills. Because if they're working with other students and discussing the inferences they have made back to the reading, they're going to be significantly improving their reading comprehension and increasing their thinking skills. How to use the question-answer relationship strategy. For step 1, you'll explain to students that there are a lot of questions that readers can ask about their reading to help understand it and relate back to it. And some of those question types are right there questions, which are questions that are literally found right in the text. They can be word for word, or they're just right there. You can find the answer just looking. One spot, they're just there. Then there's think and search questions, which you have to look at the story as a whole to find your answer. The next step, you'll read the passage aloud to students. Then you will have a list of questions prepared, and then you'll read each question and tell them what types of question you have and how you would answer. And then you would show them how to find the information, whether it's in the text or they have to make their inferences, or if they have to use their own experiences. Describe 3 ideas you plan to use in your classroom for working with students who need extra help with reading comprehension. The first thing I would do is fluent decoding, because it is important that students can decode text fluently. If you can't decode, you are going to be falling behind and you are not going to understand what you're reading. If you are spending more time trying to sound out words than you are reading them, you are not going to understand. There will be no comprehension going on. I would use this in my classroom because fluent decoding is the base work for all things reading. Without fluent decoding, students will continue to struggle with reading and reading comprehension. The next thing I would use is assessment and group work. I would use a variety of formative assessment tools to assess all students, and then would group those students according to their different abilities. Sometimes it's better to put students who are struggling together, but sometimes it's also better to put students that are struggling with students that are excelling, because as they work together, the students that are struggling are going to pick up on the skills the students that are further ahead are using, and they will help each other out, and they're going to gain comprehension skills. I would use this because group work is an excellent tool for increased reading comprehension, because it facilitates different discussions, perspectives, and explanations from other peers when they do things different than how the original person would. And I would capitalize on students' interests and abilities. When a student is interested in what they're learning, they're going to engage with it. They are going to be willing to talk about it, learn about it, read about it, put in more work. They are going to be more willing to do the homework and do the reading and put forth more effort and engage with it if it's something they are genuinely interested in. I would use this in my classroom because students are always more willing to do things they like. Do the work for something that involves topics they enjoy, or you get higher levels of participation and engagement when students are enjoying what they're doing and they're not bored and they can actively participate. Thank you for watching my presentation. Again, I apologize for my lack of voice. Hope everyone has a good day.